So the number one variable of success when it comes to sales is simply volume. The more people you talk to, the more likely you are to make the sale, to get the business, right? This isn't just in your business. As Anuj and I were talking, what actually set this frame was he was talking about dating and talking to women and how he's spoken to 20, 30 women now, and he's starting to see different patterns, and he's realizing, oh yeah, this actually is just a numbers game. But behind that, once you get your mind wrapped around, okay, the more people I talk to, the more money I'm going to make. If I talk to 100 people, then a certain percentage of those are going to convert and I'm actually going to do business with them. Well, the other part of that is to simply realize that maybe the secret variable of success when it comes to sales is actually timing in relation to the numbers that you're doing. And the reason I was thinking about this is the very first business that we grew was a window washing company. And the way that we did that was with door knocking. We'd go around, we'd knock on people's doors. Now, what's interesting about door knocking is, one, it's brutal. It's like the hardest way to sell somebody because you're going into their home, violating the sanctity of their solace, and you're trying to pitch them on something, right? So it's a very hard frame to begin with. And I think that's why a lot of people don't do it. Or it's very easy because you get so many no's to start going into those conversations with the expectation that they're going to kick you away and shoot you in the butt as you walk away, right? So that can start to affect how you show up and make your pitch. But more important than that is the timing in which you knock on the door. And what I mean by that is, in a given day, we would knock on, say, 100 doors. Of those 100 doors, only maybe 30 would actually answer. That means 70 wouldn't even answer. And I would hazard to guess that the majority of those, it wasn't that they weren't answering because they weren't home, is they weren't answering because they weren't home. So like, didn't matter how badly their windows actually needed to be washed. Didn't matter if they would have bought right then and there, like no questions asked. There's no way of making that sale. You're knocking on a door where nobody is home, right? Your timing was wrong. So all the other doors that you knock on, say the 30 that do answer, now you have the opportunity to have a conversation with them. But even within that 30 people, I would hazard that the reason most of them don't want the thing is because in that moment, they're not in the right mindset. They're not thinking about the problem and your solution to it. They're not thinking that it's something that they want, right? So again, it's a timing issue. They're not actually in the buy box. But when you have those conversations, let's just throw out a number and say 10 of those 30 people who answer, they would buy if they were in the buy box. Well, by having that conversation with them in that moment, if you leave your card with them, if you leave a flyer with them, or if you follow up with them the next week, or a phone call or an email in the next week, that seed has been planted and the timing might then be right when you reach out again. Right? So it's not ever, when it comes to sales, it's not just a now or never thing. It's now wasn't right. Now wasn't right. Is now right? But the only way to know if now is right is to keep knocking, to keep showing back up. And so in those neighborhoods that we would go and we would knock on all the doors, we would make a note who did and didn't answer. And if they didn't answer, then we know, okay, we need to go back there and knock again. And we would do that until we either got through to somebody or it just became clear that they were ghosting and they were never going to answer the door, right? But that requires way more reps than you would even think. And so we would get into these cadences of, okay, we're going to hit this neighborhood. We're going to knock on every door this week. And then next week, we're going to go to this neighborhood, knock on every door. And we'd go through a cycle so that next month we'd come back to the first neighborhood and knock on all those doors again. Because guess what? People need their windows washed more than once a year. Sometimes they need them right after a rain, right after it got muddy, right after it was windy or something happened, right? So you just keep showing up and knocking on the doors because every door is as good as locked if you don't knock. And so I see this actually discourage so many people because they take the non-answer as a no, and they take that personally rather than just they weren't in the buy box because the timing was wrong. The timing was wrong because they physically weren't here for me to sell to, or they were here, they did answer, but they still weren't in the buy box. The more that you can dissociate the no from you being personally responsible and having done something wrong, and more to the idea that the timing just wasn't right, and that your job is to see if you can find the right timing next time, right? That's the trick. Because if you can find somebody in the exact right moment, for instance, let's just presume you got this guy, you knock on his door and he's like, dude, I don't need my windows washed. Never in a million years would I ask you to wash my windows. But let's say the next day you show up and literally like 20 minutes before you got there, somebody, I don't know who, they had a hose and they were hosing literal like dog excrement. I don't know, like they're shooting poo everywhere. And they shot poo all over this guy's house. And now this guy's house is covered in dog poo. And you showed up and you're like, can we wash your windows? Do you think there's a chance this guy might be like, yeah, you know what? Like, I'd rather not wash the dog poo off my windows. Now, you might make a decision in that moment and be like, you know what? This isn't worth it for me either. I don't want to wash your dog poo. I'm just saying that given the right circumstances, anybody with the right timing can be a yes. And so your job when it comes to sales is to just treat every time you hear a no or a non-answer as the timing wasn't right. That doesn't mean the sale's over. It means it's not over yet, right? And unless you hear no, and they say, just leave me alone, never come back here. No, stop. Like, respect people. Don't be pushy and weird. But if you don't get a no, if they get a maybe, if they give I don't know, or they just don't answer, don't take that as a no. Never assume the answer is no. Go until you hear the no. Maybe try to go a little bit further after that, but be respectful about it. But honestly, like, most people just aren't doing enough volume. Sales is a volume game. Business is a volume game. Here's a secret to 10xing your business in the next year. Talk to 100 times more people. 100 times more people, you will 10x your business in the next year. Guaranteed. Nothing else has to happen. Keep your conversion rates exactly what they're at. Just if you're talking to 10 people a day right now, talk to 1,000 people a day. I promise over the next year, you will 10x your business. It's all but impossible. It's just a numbers game.